Greetings and welcome to Star Trek Discovery Pod, a sometimes funny, trying to be smart podcast covering all things new and classic Trek. Hello, my fellow compeers. I am your captain, Myrriah Gossett. With me on the view screen, we have
Clyde Haynes. I gotta say, our theme music every week just makes me want to dance. Like I just feel like I just want to, like. Anyway,
it's a good theme song.
It's good stuff.
And I'm your local whistle tongue, Paul Satachet.
Woo! Just as a heads up to those watching or listening, I'm not feeling great, but I am here because I love my Star Trek family. But I do look like I am a lurking cryptid from the bowels of Section 31 on screen. So
you look like you're gonna try to sell me Bitcoin.
I'm ready to tell you about how we're slowly destroying the earth to mine things with computers.
Myrriah coin.
Hey, just keep in mind that you guys got really lucky tonight because for a second there you were gonna get stuck with just me and Paul, and Myrriah saved you. So even not feeling at 100%, still better than dealing with me. Paul can't even just cover me.
Wow.
So thanks, Myrriah.
Wow. Way to take me down with you, compadre.
Compeer.
No, I said what I said.
My compatriots. All right. Tonight we are talking about Whistlespeak, which is directed by Christopher J. Byrne and is written by Kenneth Lynn and Brandon A. Schultz. Just a couple of reminders before we dig on into the good stuff. Clyde, tell them some things.
It's going to be a great show.
A good time, guys.
If you want to participate kind of live in the show, if you're watching us live on YouTube right now,
my brain is not working.
If you haven't figured out, we're gonna need you in this. So if you're out there and just something tells you to log on, come on, log on, hang out with us, jump in the chat. I'm all over the place. If you want us to take a look at your comments, then type capital P, capital O, capital D, capital pod in the chat, and we will take a look at your musings, your thoughts, your queries. And in that special time, when you decide you want to give us your overall thoughts of the show, just type capital H, capital F, capital HF in the chat, and we'll take a look at your thoughts.
Indeed. Paul, how can people find more ways to connect with us on the internet?
Oh, well, you might consider to subscribe to our podcast at Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. All links are at StarTrekPod.co. And if you love our content or feel like Myrriah needs some Tylenol, you can support us on Patreon.
I need more Tylenol.
For just $2 per episode at patreon.com/StarTrekPod. A hypo spray. Yeah, the hypo spray. That was the easy thing, and I didn't do it. What? Come on, Paul. Pull it together.
Paul. Get it together. I had to take expired Tylenol today because I forgot to buy it.
I'm like Burnham on the race. I'm tapping out.
Oh no, Chupi, Takako, Nicole. I think we're gonna need you guys tonight. So come strong in the chat.
Please help me. And in the meantime, I think it might be time for us to do some Hot Freaks! I wanted to make Paul watch his Hot Freaks video.
Oh, I almost was going like, what? I made that video for no reason, and now my day is set. Thank you, Myrriah. You, even in sickness, you're support.
She's great.
Yeah.
I'm doing it. First, I guess we'll dig it. We had a ton of messages from the menagerie, which we love, and I loved reading them. Sarah gave us a super long and thoughtful and lovely review, which I don't think I have the strength to read all of it, but I wondered, Clyde, if you could read just the last paragraph, starting with the one thing I found.
The one thing I found surprisingly moving has been Dr. Kolba's journey since Janal. I am both a person of science and a person of faith. I had trouble in my early 20s reconciling those two sides until I realized that both things could coexist in me because they deal with two different questions. the how versus the why. But that dichotomy is something that I have a hard time sharing with my lovely partner, an atheist, and an even harder time with a lot of other sci-fi fans. I've seen a lot of comments in the fandom about how faith doesn't have a place in Star Trek unless it's part of an unevolved civilization the Federation needs to help. So it really has been a shock that they have continued to explore the concept of faith in the last few episodes through Culbert's journey and how he seemed to finally be at peace with what the experience in Janal has awakened in him.
Indeed. Carmen also shared, I enjoyed this episode. And I, like Sarah, Sarah mentioned the dish that Colbert brought to book in this episode. It said, this made me hungry. I love that we got more Tilly. I love her character. I miss Jet Reno and the levity that she adds. Paul, you want to read the next one?
Sure, it's from Takako. I mostly enjoyed this episode, especially the A plot. The young woman was perfectly cast. Unlike other crew meets pre-warp civilization, and they reveal themselves to save lives episodes. I think the reveal to the father slash leader and its aftermath was well written and played with care and empathy. The sounds of the multiple Tibetan singing bowls produced the same effect as the sonic percussive wave. Tilly long to offer was decidedly clever.
Yeah, I thought that was great too. And I'll just clear it up as we're going forward. So Rava, the character that was mentioned in this review, is actually played by June Laporte, and both the character and June use they them pronouns. So we'll be using that going forward. And then Kyung says, this was probably my least favorite episode of the season, but they were enjoyable parts like Rainer's mentoring of Adira. And I also love the 1,000-year-old legal pads. Thank you, messages from the menagerie. We appreciate your patronage. Dun, dun. I need like an end music. Dun, dun, dun. End messages of the menagerie. Paul, what did you think about this episode?
I thought that it was not my favorite of the season, though it was perfectly adequate. Like I feel like there's always this type of episode in a Star Trek season, whether in every single series, and like I feel like because Star Trek is for a lot of different people, this type of episode was not for me.
I can see that. Clyde?
I'm with Kern on this one. This is probably my least favorite episode of the season thus far. I think part of that though is the episodes have been really, really strong. So it's hard to keep up that pace. This was a fine episode. I was just like, okay, it didn't quite hit me. I wanted to be all in for a Burnham Tilly like episode, but I think I would have preferred if they were doing that on the ship. And I am struggling to figure out why Burnham is on every away mission. It's
because she's
just
the captain and it's Star Trek.
She's kirking it.
Also, but it's also like it's just you and one other person. Like
there's a lot of two-handers this season, which I don't mind. Did you have anything else to add for your hot break?
I was just gonna say, and even Kirk was smart enough to bring Red Shirt. Like, bring somebody from security, man. Like, you keep getting in trouble and almost dying every episode. Like,
Red Shirt
come on,
disposable. Like like people, they grew. Like people are people in Star Trek in the future. So like everyone, you
we have to get to know them emotionally before we destroy them.
That's right.
I'm not suggesting that we destroy them. I'm suggesting you bring a third person. You just introduced this whole new cast to us that you want us to know. We got like 4 episodes left. I can't even tell you what their names are. I'm sorry, I don't know their names. Grab one of them and say, "You, the nameless ensign on the con. Come on, you're coming with us." Right? That's all I'm saying.
I enjoyed this episode, but I think it's because it felt very nostalgic to me. It honestly felt like a very Voyager-esque episode. It almost felt a little bit of Stargate Atlantis, if you will.
That's what it felt. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I felt. It felt like a Stargate episode. Well,
yes.
well put. Finally, someone said it. Finally, Section 31 said it.
I don't know I don't know if I'm co-signing that one just yet. I gotta process that one.
No,
tell me why Stargate Atlantis. I gotta hear this. I need to hear
because
why.
They loved going to specifically like a quote unquote ancient yet alien civilization where there was some sort of dilemma about saving people from their own gods. That felt like such a standard plot trope of a Stargate episode.
I cannot disagree with that.
Which is probably why I liked it. So I can agree that there was like moments. I don't know. My brain is mush. I liked it. That's where I'm gonna end my thoughts at this point. But I thought we moved forward in an interesting way. And we got pieces of information. I loved like hundreds of thousands, not hundreds, the tens of thousands. I don't know, a really old legal pad that made me giggle. I thought that was funny. I bet it's because, in my mind, he was probably like, I don't want to do a hollow like moment. He's like, I'm not just going to just gesture into space. I want something to physically hold on to.
So here's like I was in Tennessee a while ago, and I met someone whose house burned down because they were cooking bacon. Well, their apartment burned down. They were cooking bacon. They went to the bathroom. They came back, kitchen in flames. And
Wow.
and then I thought, like I go
I'm
like,
dying to know where this is
yeah,
going. I can't wait.
And I go like, oh, okay. I take it at face value, and then like as I'm driving with my wife today, I go like, oh, you know what? There's probably something more to that story. Like, there's probably something that he's not telling about that story that like made, because like if anyone's ever cooked bacon, it does not just light up and explode your kitchen when in the time that it takes to go take a piss. At least it's not been to my experience.
But how long were they in the bathroom though?
Well, I don't know, but if it
Because
was like
a grease fire can move pretty fast, but they're
yeah, okay, and so then when like when I was watching the White Room, he goes, oh, and that's a real legal pad, by the way. It's not replicated. I go like, I bet you're lying. I bet it is replicated because
or maybe he breaks temporal laws and just like and like zaps himself to an Office Max in like 2024. Everyone out to get a legal pad.
Because if you have literally 1,000-year-old paper, come on.
It would have to be very well preserved.
Here was my thing about the paper. Like, first of all, I love a good legal pad. Like,
sure.
I'm a fan of legal pads, right? But there's something here. So one, if he's saying this is real,
which he did,
and I'm writing down one, you wrote 5 names on a sheet of legal pad, and then you ripped it off and
whole piece.
That's all I'm saying. Here's what you do: you write those 5 names at the bottom of that sheet, tear off the bottom, and then you hand it to him, and then you got the rest of the sheet. Like, just come on.
Or maybe this is a very clever way of the writer saying like, oh, David Cronenberg's character is a liar.
Or that. Cheapy dropped a hot freak. At first I wasn't grabbed, but then I got very into it, really enjoyable at the end, and I was very struck by humans have a deep tenacity to undervalue something that is just for you. That is interesting.
So sometimes I read that word as tendency, but like tenacity works as well.
Did I say tendency? Is it supposed to be tenacity?
It's gonna be a great show, guys. It's gonna be a great show.
I don't know what I just said.
I can't see. I'm so sick. I don't get it.
I don't know what I read. Words. What are words? You guys can read from now on. On that piece of paper, though, we did get the name of all of our scientists that we now apparently have the full list of, which we have Janal Bix from Trill, Carmen Cho, the Terran, Marina Dertix, the Betazoid, Tarashi Creel from Denobula, and then Velik, who's the Romulan.
See,
that was so hard.
So impressive, Myrriah. Here's the thing that drove me nuts about that is it exposed my Star Trek nerdiness, because I can't even enjoy the episode in its fullness. I had to pause it at
to look everybody up,
to go to Memory Alpha and start looking everybody up. Like, that is just ridiculous.
But
like,
you understand that they've been erased.
I discovered nothing.
They were purged of Memory Alpha. Come on, guys.
Like, absolutely nothing did I discover. I guess what I discovered is that, hey, we got some new people.
And that's only 5, and weren't there 6? So we still missing
Well,
one?
one died, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, all of them are dead.
No, one died by touching the
Oh, the one who died. I guess that's
Yeah.
true. Got it. But yes, we go down to
But I
our
do like your response of like, well, they're all dead, Paul. It's been 800 years. I love I love that tone.
I mean, Janal wasn't. Janal's not alive. Janal's not dead. He's still kicking, or he's ready to die
sort
now.
of, yeah. Yeah, he's gone into the great pond in the sky. Okay. We do set up. I like the Whistlespeak aspect of this culture. When we
Like
go down
I
into the
actually
planet.
do too, except it was so underutilized. It's the title of the freaking episode, and
I know. I had wished at the end that they had used Whistlespeak to communicate through the giant titanium. To me,
sure,
that would
sure,
have been really lovely.
yeah, like something, right?
Hmm.
Or if they all started whistling and and then it stopped the machine. I don't know,
Yeah.
but like but nothing. It's like
But I thought it was, to me, the most interesting pieces, and what I thought was the overall message of this episode is about the connections between people, because both in the big like speech that Burnham gives to Tilly of like, here's all the xeno anthropology things you should know. They were like, oh, this particular planet, they don't denote things like class or status. They recognize at least 3 distinct genders, and they prioritize connection amongst people. And then there's the older woman who states that she finds the connection to the gods to be how they connect between each other. And then we also have kind of Culber's ultimate search for meaning, as well as what I really wish they had really leaned into in this episode was Burnham and Tilly's friendship as the motivation for breaking the Prime Directive. I thought that could have been leaned into a little bit more. But what did y'all think of sort of our cascading uh, uh moral stories of connection? If anything I just said made sense.
there we go. Like, hey, Clyde, would you like some word soup?
I
I
love
served it
words too.
right up.
Just it's like, how many words can we get to a sentence? It's great. No, like honestly though, Myrriah, I thought it was interesting, but it didn't seem that novel to me. I'm like, this feels like Trek. Hey, we can't break the Prime Directive unless we have to break the Prime Directive.
Like every
Like,
captain does.
yeah, like the surprise would have been if Tilly died. Like that would have been the shock, right? But again, it would have been easier to handle this if it was 3 of you, so one of you could have been hanging out with Tilly and going, "Hey, what's happening here?" Also, it
Also,
felt really
they should have blown out the flames, because that's just burning up your
I was
oxygen
thinking that
supply.
too. I was thinking a
right.
typical SG1
Yep.
mistake.
Typical SG1. I mean, watching them flicker down was a fun way for me to know how much oxygen was left, but I was just like,
Yeah.
you're getting rid of your own supply.
What are you doing, Tills?
What you doing, Tilly?
Yeah, I thought that could have been like it wasn't a surprise to me. I thought it was fine, but it just wasn't a surprise. I expected them to win, like to run the race a little better, right? Like I felt like there was some tech or something they could have done, or figure out why it was so hard to breathe. There's some science in there that I think they just ignored and assumed. I've been trained by Starfleet. I'll win this race.
I thought it was
Well,
just
I
like a
think,
big pepper pill.
yeah, it would
Mm,
be like if they just like dusted everyone with a little pepper spray. Yeah.
Uh, and like when I was in the army, I got dusted with tear gas, and it hurt. And so like I could see
Paul, did
There's
you
so
just
many
drop?
things in that. So many things he dropped in that sense. And I'm
I've
like,
I've
wow.
literally lived under the same roof as you. And how did I not know you spent time in the army?
Well,
I assumed I was out of the loop, and I was like, did he say that before and I missed it?
like so here's the thing that like a friend of mine at the time said. He goes like, the thing about you, Paul, is that like when you see someone in the military when they're in civilian life, there is some aspect about them. You look at them, and you go like, oh yeah, I can see that, but there's none of that in you. Like you look at Paul and you go like, oh. This is his third serving of ice cream today.
That is a fact I know about Paul. That 3 servings of ice cream can happen in a day.
And it goes like, oh, there's no restraint or discipline or anything. So anyway, it reminded me of boot camp where you're kind of running through the hills, pepper spray in face. It's actually not quite that, but like it had semblance of that.
Paul, the next time we're out, I'm getting you a Dos Equis because
Uh-huh.
you clearly are the most interesting man on the planet.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
okay.
The
Well,
more
there we
you know. I need the more you know about Paul
The
graphic
more you know.
that I can just throw up on the screen. Um,
Jeez.
but yeah, I thought the race. I assume in my mind when they said there was a bunch of like it was like a trial that it
Mhm,
wasn't going to just be like a foot race and you're
mhm,
really thirsty and dehydrated. I assumed it was going to be like multiple steps of
mhm.
like obstacles.
Yeah, like it's an interesting thing because like everything in the episode is actually kind of set up and thematic. Like oh, we're gonna simulate the mother's journey.
Mhm.
She couldn't breathe. She was very thirsty, but she didn't drink any water. She gave the water to her children, and then she died. Maybe she had drank some water, but like but that's to simulate the thing. So like they're
You
running.
know when they're like, you should put the mask on yourself before you put it on
Sure, sure.
other people.
Different Mariah, different cultures. You got to respect it. You got to
I
respect it.
d I
And
do.
so like so here's the race. You're tempted with the water. You don't drink the water, and at the end you get to go to the tower, and then you die. It's all there. It's all connection. It's all set up. So
Yeah, I'd be very interested to know when they started sacrificing people because seemingly, like, they had all of those towers working,
mhm.
and were they sacrificing when all the towers worked, or is it just when they started to have power failures and they were like, "Oh, we have to, like,
I don't
do
know.
this
Like
thing."
I mean, it's
I
only been
think
a you go, Clyde.
yeah, I was gonna say I think it's when they started having issues. Like it was something where it's one of those things where I think it randomly they sacrificed someone and it worked. And they were
Mm,
like, "Oh, that's must be the key."
right. I agree with Nicole who said, "I'm confused why they didn't fix the other 4 towers." I assumed when they were like, "We sent the dots down and they're fixing the other
Yes.
towers," you know?
Like I don't
I
know. Like
assumed that the whole planet was gonna be okay because they were like, "We know what's going on. We're
But I
gonna hook
guess,
this up for
like,
you."
Burnham's like, "We can show you how to fix these yourselves in a way," but I don't
But
know,
they're
maybe
not gonna go
we'll
walking across the sandstorm to another tower to it's not magic, and actually we don't actually know if the towers are fixable. They've
it's
been
true.
broken for a while, and
I
and it's not like Burnham breaks the Prime Directive, or is
Uh,
it like like oh I've already messed up, I might as well just help all these people.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like there could have been ways to have been sneakier about breaking the Prime Directive of, like, "I am a god and I'm here to tell you that you don't have to do." I don't
That's
know.
that's some Kirk shit there.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably just, yes and playing a god.
No, no, no. We like. I need to get Mariah sick more often because, like, you get to see who she is, like Section 31, like slight megamania, like
Yeah,
this power play. It's so great. It's so great.
To your point,
I'm ready.
Paul, I was literally thinking Mariah wants to would actually pretend to be a god. Is that a non-sick Mariah comment or just a sick Mariah comment? Because I'm
Or
trying
or
to think.
or a shields down, and then like
This is my true nature.
this is basically the containment field is down, and like it's like warp core breach right now.
I'm just saying, it's like you can't hold people responsible for anything they say while drinking NyQuil. Like that's just not fair, right?
Yeah,
Just
it's
saying.
not fair. And Nicole brings up a good point. There's no way Sonequa would have agreed to say she was a god. I mean, probably not. Also, I can only imagine like this show already receives such like unabashed hatred on the internet from people. They'd be like, of course she's claims to be a god.
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts.
I will say this, like for pro episodeness,
mhm,
or maybe this is why I think of SG1 more than Star Trek. Like for all of it, it's twofold. One, uh, it seemed like the people were pretty conflict averse.
mhm.
You know, the culture, like there's no conflict there.
Yeah, no
You
like
know,
warring factions or
like
yeah.
Mhm.
everyone is chill, and and usually for SGs, like here's people chill. Oh, we come by and they go like, oh, the Wraith or the Goa'uld are coming. We have to, and they go like, no, we just want to chill out. That's usually the vibe. Whereas in Star Trek, I feel like you go down and you go like, oh, let me fix something. That's one reason why it didn't feel very Star Trekky to me.
Well,
The
I
thing,
think.
I mean, I
Okay,
thought
Paul.
Rava was kind of that, like, I suppose trying to play the character of the conflict, right? It's this like younger person who's like, I want to do this thing, even though my parent says I shouldn't. And like they understood what the sacrifice was going to be at the end, but still wanted to
but
do it.
here's the thing that's also really funny. Like that race is because of Burnham.
Yeah.
They did.
But they were so excited about it and they
the,
decided to enter the race.
they just started to do the race because of
Burnham. Yeah.
and
I'm
so
sure
like
that, again, I think there could have been a little bit more of that emotional push at the end of the
Mhm.
episode about Burnham feeling like responsible for setting off this course of events, right?
Sure,
Anyway,
like I suppose what the thing
Nicole
thank
knows
you, thank you,
exactly.
thank you, finally someone said it.
Peanut
Nicole.
Finally
Hamper.
someone said it.
Nicole.
Thank you,
Really,
thank
Peanut
you.
Nicole?
Hamper would say they are a god.
Nicole,
Me
live
too,
long and
Nicole.
prosper. Live
Seriously?
long and
I
prosper.
thought we were cool. I am so disappointed, Nicole.
I see you,
Come
Oh
on
Nicole.
now.
no.
I expect that from these two, but Nicole, come on now.
Peanut Hamper is mathematically perfect.
like
Okay.
she yeah. Uh
Yeah, I mean, I look at this and I think this has a certain TNG feel, like episode
mhm.
feel to
Mhm.
me. Like they go down to the planet and everybody thinks like, oh, we've got these earthquakes and it must be an upset god. Not quite sure what's going on.
I mean,
And then
classic lower decks.
right, and Data goes, Captain, it's because of this computer thing that no one knows is there. They don't know it's a computer, but it's a computer and we can fix it. And like, yes, but how do we do it without letting them know that we're advanced? It felt like that, just, and I guess maybe that was my feeling. It almost felt like, oh, I've seen this type of episode before, where so many times with Discovery it feels like something new. This feels like it would have been a really interesting Strange New
90s trope.
Worlds episode, right? Because they tend to go, hey, we're gonna
Mhm.
update those old tropes. Discovery is like, hey, we doing new stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
But I mean, everyone keeps asking them to be more like Strange New Worlds. So maybe this is them being like, see, it also doesn't work.
Mhm.
It does not
like
work when we do this way. I don't know.
I just think that like, when you have like people who get along, it's a little dull.
Hmm.
Like,
It's
like,
true.
like
To your point, Paul, there was no like twirly mustache
mhm,
guy in the background trying to plot how to
mhm.
become king or something like that, or
Mm.
you know from the east, I don't trust you foreigners. There was no guy like that.
Like it took a long time before it was going like, oh, Tilly might die. It just took, like, it just took a long time for that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it would have been interesting if there was someone who was maybe like suspicious of the whole system, and was
mhm,
like trying to prove that there were no gods, or you know what I mean? Like that could have also been an interesting
mhm.
subplot to have added. But
Or
um
like not to step on like, or if you had Tilly sitting in like dying and it goes 24 hours earlier, like and
mm,
just play that kind of out of timeness of it, just because uh from a linear standpoint, like what happens, they figure it out, they go down,
yeah. There
like
weren't a lot of obstacles.
Yeah, and then the main obstacle, which is the running, which really impacted me because like I have very poor cardio, and
An
I have
object in motion stays in motion, Paul.
like an object, a Paul at rest stays at rest. A Paul in motion needs to take a rest and then eat a milkshake. Not drink a milkshake, like literally eat a milkshake.
Yeah, yeah,
The one thing I do like about the running though is it was a little bit of a throwback to when
yeah.
Tilly was
Mhm.
training to become
100%.
an officer.
100%.
And it was like, oh, okay, well, she's well suited for this because she, ran around the Discovery and climate control and plenty of oxygen. So she's, of course, really prepared for this type of race. It's great.
Like,
She did it.
another way that they could have done it that I would have been more invested was basically if they had to run in the sandstorm.
Mm.
You know,
Yes.
because now I'm fearing, but they can tap out anytime and they can drink some water. Like
Literally, there's water stations every
yeah,
so often
and I understand.
encouraging them
I understand,
to
like
get
like
some
if
water.
you're in it, it would be a lot harder, but to see it is a little harder to see. Like like they did a good job with like the lips getting you know,
Chapped, yeah.
but like ultimately, like if I could like Burnham and Tilly were bantering, where if they were going like I'm gonna die, and he goes, we can't let this happen, like and like they were crawling, uh, to
Like extreme. Yeah, I was like make the terrain more extreme or something, like a big hill. When you like I'm a big hiker, so there's like those moments when you think you're at the end of the
Mhm,
trail and then you hit another, it's like the false summit, like a false summit moment would have been
sure.
interesting. But
Yeah, 100%. Like when I was thinking of there was a minor bump there with a hill there, uh, and like in Tennessee, I was shooting a short with a friend, and we had our actress like basically run up a hill, being chased by a bunch of people, and we had her do it 3 times successively.
mhm.
Like take one, take two, and then about halfway through the third take, we go like, "Oh crap, we're making her do wind sprints up a hill. She's gonna die." And then and like, and like because we were far away, and she basically like with as she was running, she's going, "Cut."
Begging for you to cut.
But what's funny was like, like from our vantage point, we're going like, yeah, just keep on going. Like, we didn't see what was that she was gonna heart attack. So I guess that's what was kind of missing for the race for me was that I didn't see the stakes.
Mm. Um, on the ship side of things, I wanted to talk a bit about Culber's sort of
Handsome
spiritual
brain, his handsome brain.
handsome brain. I mean,
It's a good looking
it's
brain.
Wilson Cruz. Everything is good looking.
It's a good looking brain.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised. That's like saying, the sky is blue. I would expect him to have a very handsome brain.
Indeed. But I wanted to talk about the hollow of his grandmother and
Uh-huh.
like what did y'all think about the idea of essentially they're programming like a grief program for you to be able
Mhm.
to talk to your dead relatives. And I was like, it's very interesting the idea that you're essentially putting all of the information you have about someone into it feels very now. It's like, how much of your information do you want AI to learn about you?
Sure,
And
sure.
then what if it could be you?
I looked at this and I was like, this is incredible, right? Like as someone who has lost grandparents and thought, man, there's so many questions I want to know, right? Like I want to know, about their journey, and it feels like there's wisdom that is lost. The ability to have them that scan my brain and recreate them as though they're standing there. And then I thought, like, culturally, he's got his grandmother and he's talking to her and she's talking to him. I thought it was incredible, right? And challenge it and challenge him in a way that I thought was kind of spectacular, right? And it's one of those things where I think about ultimately what we're looking at is kind of this form of coaching. There's
Mm.
a form of coaching that I've studied called coactive coaching. And the thought is, as a coach, you don't ever actually give someone an answer. You're just trying to help them come to that answer. And so you're trying to get them to dig inside themselves. And it's kind of like, well, the answers, the premise is the answer's in you. My job as a coach is to bring it out. Now, I don't always agree with that, but that's the premise. And I think what we're seeing here is that it's the same notion of, well, the answer is in him. Like he has the experiences. So through his experiences with his grandmother, he can draw out and almost help himself get through this grief. So I was fascinated by it.
Yeah.
I thought it
Did
was
you
kind of
watch?
cool.
Oh, sorry. Did you watch this latest season of True Detective?
I did not.
Oh, I enjoyed it. But anyway, the main character, the main detective character played by Jodie Foster, is always, when they're trying to figure something out, is always like wrong question. Like when they're trying to figure, like she's talking with them, is like, no, we have to make sure we're asking the right question to get to the right answer. Kind of reminds me of that. But I also it's interesting to me because the way he phrased it was like, oh, it scanned like, essentially my memories. And so I'm like, is this just your idealized version of this person, or are you also feeding it other pieces of information to give you a more accurate representation? Because it is like our memories are flawed in many ways. And so it's like, what are the consequences of using potentially flawed memories to build something like this for you to work with?
I mean, that's a great point, Myrriah, because we tend to remember people we've had negative experiences with more negatively than they may have actually existed, and people that we've had positive experiences
I'm
with
right
more
here.
positively.
Not cool,
Talking
Clyde.
about you,
It's
Paul.
not cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's also like the idea of once someone has passed, it's like there's that conflict within yourself of like, oh, you don't want to remember the bad things, like you
Right.
want to only remember the good things about people.
I don't know about that. I mean, maybe I'm a weirdo. Yes, but like I remember my grandmother being a real dick to me. Like in fact, I I don't think about the times that she was nice to me. I actually can't remember that. I remember when she was a dick, and I cherish those memories.
Yeah.
Not because
Because it's what you remember. It's like that's what
yeah,
your relationship was.
and
Yeah.
like I'm. It's one of those things where you're like, oh, this was my journey. This was there,
Hmm.
and I can choose to make a negative or a positive out of it.
Hmm.
But like it is what it is. I think this is very similar to technology. Do you remember the episode, Clyde, in Next Generation where Riker gets stuck in that holodeck?
Oh,
But
Minuet. Yes, one of
no,
the
different episode where
nope.
he he's in a cave and all of a sudden it flashes forward 10 years and they say that he's he had some Regillian blah 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 and he's
Yeah,
lost his
yeah,
memory. But like that holodeck was able to read Riker's mind and in real time pretty much do stuff.
yeah.
So
And but he eventually figured out that it wasn't real.
exactly.
Yeah.
But so like I feel that like there is value, and I'm going to say it knowing how it sounds. There's a value in playing with yourself, uh, to a point, and then after you finish playing with yourself, I think you have to like, you have, you have to, like move on. Like I'm actually done with Culver. Like on this journey, like kind of like figuring stuff out. I want to see the result of it, like him trying
Yeah.
to figuring out. Like I actually don't know what he felt other than he goes like, I feel good. Other than that, and I feel good, and that's weird to me. I
Mm.
don't exactly know what that is. Um, why it's causing him to go through this journey. You know,
Yeah. I mean, it seems like he's someone who for a long time had probably decided that there was no
More.
yeah, like more to than what there is in front of him. But like of all of the characters on this ship, he's probably the one who I think deserves the amount of time to question this. I would have assumed a lot of this would have happened after you were literally reconstructed in a mushroom sack.
I mean, he was dead. Like,
Yeah.
if anybody's got questions, it's the guy who was dead and then came back to life. And we've never really talked about that.
Ever. It's like the most we've gotten is Shax telling us with a glaze over his face that you don't want to know the things he went through at the mountain.
Like that's the thing that's interesting to me about Culber is, yeah, if he's the one who's super introspective, it's because he's walking around and everybody's just like, hey, love that you're back. We're so glad that you're back. We're not going to talk about where you were or what happened. We're just going to talk about the fact that we're happy for you to be back. Don't talk about that other stuff.
Yeah.
Like that guy in SG Stargate Atlantis. You know, the doctor who died and came back.
Yes, with serious repercussions. They eventually had to talk about that.
I do wish we had gotten, I think, a more substantial scene with Culber and Stamets about it. Cause like I like that they're starting to weigh into like what does that mean to have these kinds of conversations with your, your partner, and like what do you like as your thoughts and feelings evolve about whatever. It's like when you're with people for a long time, it's like things change about you, and what does that mean for the relationship? And they've like delved into that when it was like Culber's essentially like, I have to figure out how to exist in this body that got reconstructed. But yeah, I don't know.
Can
I
somebody
think
reconstruct my body like that, please? Sorry.
truly. Can you stick me in a giant bag of mushrooms and I come out with those abs? That would be great.
That's what I'm saying.
But I think I was craving more emotional intimacy in this episode.
Like, I am not. This is gonna be a hot Paul.
I mean, hotter than the comment you just made about playing with yourself. It's gonna be hotter than that. Buckle up.
No, like this is gonna get so. I've never liked Culber and Stamets together as a couple.
Whoa!
Like I've never bought it. I've never bought it. Like, because I just feel like I don't understand the connection between them. I understand what I'm being shown, but I don't.
Because we need, and I agree, we need.
You agree?
Gay sex in Star Trek. Give it to
sure.
me.
I mean, like, do you think that's what I'm missing? I'm missing some.
I think there is a lack of physical intimacy on this show for the most part. I think we've gotten a lot more physical intimacy in other Star Trek shows where like we've seen, I mean, the Riker and Troy of it all, the Troy and Worf of it all, the Dax has many fun characters. Also, guys, I'm just everything I have just said, please take with a grain of salt.
It's too much time on it.
I am so wild. I don't even know what I was trying to say anymore. I think this show has seemed a little PG as far as like romance and love, and we seem to be totally cool with violence on this show, but I think there's been a distinct lack of physical intimacy. That's where I was going.
I'm not sure if that is the issue for me, but it
we
may
need
be
sexual tension.
Is it that for me, I go like, I have just gotten to the point where I can tolerate Stamets as if he were a real person, I could, like, it's just like Sheldon Cooper, like,
And now I'm going to backtrack everything I'm going to say. Maybe that's not a part of the relationship because all relationship formats are also valid. And maybe that kind of intimacy isn't a priority in it. And I could also see the character of Stamets being slightly on that like asexual spectrum, which is also very valid and like would make sense with that type of a character.
Culber does not. I mean, that I don't get that vibe from Culber.
Stamets.
No, but that's his partner. Like, you can't have those abs and then just be like,
you can love yourself. That's all I'm saying.
Like
yes, but with
It takes
those
a lot of
abs, that's
to go on Paul's train.
saying.
It takes a lot of self-love to look like that.
I'm
and
just
like
saying, like,
to me, like like
I
here,
forgot to put a
I don't
disclaimer on this
like.
audio
That's
episode
right.
about how off the rails this is. I'm so
No,
sorry,
I'm just
guys.
like back to the point, of of me like dissing the healthiest relationship on
On this
Discovery.
it
show.
is.
It
It is
is.
the
Like
healthy relationship.
like I just don't see the chemistry of like how they interplay together.
What
Like
you're saying, Paul, is Stamets way outkicked his coverage, and you're trying to figure out how did you pull that? Is that about what you're trying to say?
well, there is that aspect. Like I don't know what Culber sees in Stamets. I don't see what
He's a
Stamets sees in Culber.
genius.
And that's what bugs me because like
But I think what's probably hard too is we haven't seen them in just a like we haven't
in
seen them go
dating
out
mode.
on a date. Yeah, we
Sure.
haven't seen them have like a true night of like we're connecting in this way that's not about like work or the end of the world or the end of civilization.
You know what it is?
So you want to see them connecting, Myrriah? I know what you're saying.
Yes.
Boom,
I know
boom.
exactly what you're
You,
saying. You're trying to watch Discovery After Dark. I get it. Okay.
you know
Give it
what
to me in a short trek at least.
like I think I understand in that now what I'm trying to say. I go when I started dating my wife or before I started dating my wife, someone asked me like, "Would you ever date B?" And I go, "No." And they go, "Why?" It goes, "Oh, because I have standards." And then you go like, "What?" I go like, "Well, when I date someone, they need to laugh at my jokes. But they can't laugh at all of them because all my jokes aren't funny. They need to laugh at the right ones and they need to belly laugh." And I've never seen Kohler or Stamets belly laugh. Like they've been together for like forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like they, it seems weird to me. Like at least in that kind of relationship, like it seemed they don't seem to have that chemistry that I would expect in a 10+ year relationship. That's just me. Well, I don't know if I'm being really.
Or it's like that. I feel like the toothbrush scene we got in like the very
Mhm.
first season
Yeah.
was like the last time we've seen
Exactly.
that
That's
moment.
exactly. Like like some living moment of
Mhm.
them, and like then they're all in parent mode with Adira,
Adira. Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, but that's not. This is how people get divorced.
I mean, I kind of see your point, Paul, somewhat. In that, on one hand, I'm going to say it like this: I see two people, and what I've come to understand is, if you see two people who make each other happy and who care about each other and who are there for each other, man, you can keep all of that other stuff about they don't seem to fit. Like if they're holding each other down, I'm all for it.
Sure.
But to that point, we don't see like the little stuff and I think Myrriah, you used the word intimacy, and Nicole in the chat is saying chemistry, right?
Yeah, and when I say intimacy, I'm not talking about like
No, I'm
sexual
not. Yeah,
intimacy.
but,
I'm talking about like
you're talking about
emotional
like,
intimacy.
well, that and they're little things, right? Like they walk past each other and there's just this graze, this touch, or this look, or I was somewhere and I saw a wife and her husband. They were sitting in these seats, and she just put her head on his shoulder, right? And I know this couple. They've been married for like almost 15 years. It's that little stuff, just the little like, hey, and to Paul, to your point, we don't see a lot of just them down chilling. Like even when we're in their I guess their quarters,
Yeah.
there still feels like a lot of tension.
Like I've never
Right?
seen them eat together.
Like, I
Like
think we have seen them eat, but it's usually there's some tense discussion going on, right? Like what you want to see is you want to see them sitting on the couch watching some TV and just chilling.
Like what I want to see is there a fight between Tilly and Giorgio, and in the background, Stamets and Cole are just like with like forks in their mouth, going, "What the hell is happening?" Like I don't have like just that background
honestly,
intimacy.
The meal between Culber and Book is like one of those moments that it would have been like that I'm kind of craving from Stamets and Culber.
A little bit, like it's just interesting. Like the point in this season, the point where I saw it was like in first episode at the at the dinner party,
dinner, yeah.
whatever, the gala, where Stamets was feeling like, oh, I'm a relic now, and they were together. They had like Tilly and Burnham there too,
Mhm.
but like
There's those eye glances of like, oh, we have a shorthand together.
and it's not even that it needs to be that much. If it's there, I haven't clocked it. So that's just my hot take. I apologize for those who are super Culver Stamets and people. I'm just saying I didn't get it. I'm the jerk. Don't hate me, please. Don't dox me. Going back to your hacker look.
No. I think you bring up an interesting point, Paul. Actually, is that like I think what we're looking for is just that kind of those just a little bit more chemistry between two characters that we like. We like the characters.
And I think it's like some of it, I think is like, I know they are friends in real life, and it does. And I think to their friendship, it feels sometimes like a friendship,
but
like a deep friendship, which is also valid. But
here's the thing. And my man Curran says still way more chemistry than there ever was shown between Ash and Michael. That's why he's my dude. But my question is this though, in relation to that, have we seen really strong chemistry between any two characters on Discovery?
I think Book and Burnham are probably the closest we've gotten, and I feel like they've definitely written
I'm gonna
Maul
say
and Locke,
like Giorgio
and anything.
That's right, and Saru and what's her name?
Tarina.
Tarina.
Yeah, I totally believe that they are vibing with each other, and like it's so little too. Like, hey, here's some tea, and the way they just look at each other, and you go like, oh my god, something's gonna happen. There's so little of it, but it's there.
Yeah. Speaking of Saru, I miss Saru, and I miss
I miss Action Saru.
I miss Action Saru, and I miss our main crew. I'm like, I need explanations of people's schedules, like what was going on. I don't know. It makes me sad.
Myrriah, you said it. Actually, there's a lot of chemistry, especially now, between Locke and Maul. Like I think there is a lot of chemistry. You know what I'm looking for, and I don't want to compare the two shows. I hate it. I hate to do it, but
here we go.
Spock and
Chapel.
No, I mean no, because there's T'Pring, right?
That is some chemistry.
Spock and Chapel is like Discovery chemistry. Like you're telling me it exists, but I don't necessarily see it. Spock and T'Pring, that is
palpable.
That is like, whew, right now, not to go back there, but if that's on Discovery After Dark, I'm gonna have to buy that subscription.
I mean, they gave it to us the very first episode. They're like, here's Spock without a shirt on. They knew what we wanted to see.
I really need to get my ab game like on point because
it's so genetic. You have to be so dehydrated to have abs.
Just crushed right now.
Everyone's body is beautiful. That is all I'm gonna say. But I don't know where I'm going with this. The last thing I wrote down was the line, "Nothing we have shown you means gods don't exist," which I thought was an interesting way for Burnham to try to weasel her way out of Prime Directive.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Bury that.
I think it was just a sloppy mission for Burnham. She got to a point where she goes like, "Oh, I can't sacrifice Tilly." Boom. And you know what? Good for her. There are times when
and technically she only really revealed to one person.
Sure. You know what I mean? It wasn't he can't keep a secret.
He might. We'll see how it shakes out, eh? I mean, anything else y'all want to talk about in this episode?
No, I think we filled a whole hour with our rambling, and I apologize.
I apologize for this
we will do
episode,
better
y'all.
for those who are going like, oh, this is not up to the quality.
If this is your first episode, I'm so sorry.
I was gonna say, if this is like I say this all the time, and then Myrriah always goes, "Of course we are." This time I can actually say it. If this is the first time you're listening to Star Trek Discovery Pod, then please know that this is not what you get on a week-to-week basis. We usually have our stuff a little bit more pulled together. Yes.
I will say, I like Kuhn's little message here. I like that Michael's character growth, the season 2 Michael from New Eden, would have trampled all over their beliefs.
Nice. I like that. I like that a lot. I think that's absolutely true.
Yeah. Oh no, I love sick Myrriah. Should I take a lot of new medication that gives me a headache and makes me loopy? Let's go.
I'm starting to think that this needs to be a Star Trek drinking podcast where we just go nuts, but it's just me.
Yeah, like the Star Trek Mushroom Podcast.
I mean, it would make sense. We can just call it the Mycelial Network.
Oh, that's right. There we go. Welcome to Star Trek Mycelial Network After Dark.
That's the spin-off show. That's what we're gonna rename the podcast once Discovery is over.
Star Trek Discovery. Discovering mushrooms.
When Paramount finally is sold to the highest bidder and they get rid of all of Star Trek, we'll just become a mushroom review podcast. Anyway, that's been the show, y'all. I hope you enjoyed. You can subscribe, rate, and review on Apple.
But maybe not rate today.
Maybe not this particular episode. You could also give us 5 stars over on Spotify. And hey, if you thought this was a fun show, you should give us a review that just says sick Myrriah episodes equals best episodes, and just drop that in the Apple reviews. That would be great. You can hang out with us over on the Patreon. You can find us on Twitter. And when I remember to post over on Instagram, I am over there sometimes. We'll see you all next time. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye.
Huzzah!
Chikai Mare.